Good afternoon, Tonia Reeves here for Animal Dreaming Radio Show, and we're very excited to be going live today with the gorgeous Jeanne Prosser. And I'm really excited to connect with Jeanne today because she is a wealth of knowledge, and it's we're just excited to learn from you, Jeanne, and from all your experience that you've had with numerology, and also there's astrology in there as well. Is that correct? That's right.
Yeah.
So no, share your story, because I'm really fascinated. How did this come about? Like, did this start? Was it something that you've always had an interest in, or like throughout your life, or is it something that you just sort of decided one day, this is for me? I'd love to hear how you got into the numerology side of things.
Great. Thanks very much. And thanks very much for inviting me on board, Tonia, and to Scott and Trudy as well. This is great. Yes, well, I got into numerology in my late 20s, and my story is probably similar to a lot of other people's stories. My brother died. He was younger than me. He died very suddenly. And through that process, that grief process, I looked at the meaning of life, what happens after death. And of course, I came across numerology, all the spiritual type things, numerology and astrology. So I guess I've been working with numerology. I used to do astrology a lot. I had a lot of clients, but I find that to do an astrology reading, I have to do a few hours preparation. With numerology, the main numbers that I use are the birth date to find the life path. Simple, and anyone can do it, and it's great for numerologists to use, but of course it's so easy for anyone to pick up to use for family and friends and work out their own numbers.
Awesome. And have numbers always been a thing for you? Like
I was useless at maths at school. Absolutely terrible, but I use the Pythagorean technique, and even though I don't know much about the Pythagorean theorem from school, this is very basic and usable knowledge, and of course it's an ancient technique, and we don't know how far it goes back. Lots of different cultures claim to be the startup point for numerology. And so you've got the Mayans, Chaldeans, the Hindus, the Egyptians had a lot to do with this, because Pythagoras actually went to Egypt for a long period of time to study. And then you've got the Greeks. So who knows where it came from, but it is an ancient technique which is still used today.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And we're inviting anyone that's watching, hi Hayley, to put in any questions you might have on numerology, because Jeanne is amazing with her knowledge with it. And so what led you to writing your book? And I love the way that it's geared towards children as well, Jeanne.
Yes, awesome. Well, two things. One was that, it's co-authored with Penny Ditchburn. And I met Penny in my early 30s, and I went to her for a reading, and she did tea leaves and tarot. And I knew numerology at that stage, but she combined numbers with planets. So she actually taught me. So we've kept in touch all these years. And I said to her, some of this information is going to be lost if we don't write it down. And that was about 2010. So it took us nearly 6 years to get that book finished, and she wasn't computer literate, so I'd go to her house and write down some notes and then come back and I'd put it all together and work it all out. And I think because we had that debate every week, we got to a deeper level, and with the numbers, when you work with the energy of numbers, you do get deeper. All right, and that's where the intuitive side comes in. As you start to unravel, and numbers are just energy, so as you start to unravel, then you get to that deeper level. And I believe that helped us, because we went the long way around and not just straight typing everything up onto the computer.
Awesome. So when you say you every week, is that like you got together or made that commitment to?
Yes. Yep. it took us a long time. I mean, we did have a few gaps with, you know, often, of course, family comes in the way, things happen. But
Yes.
yeah.
No, awesome. And so how long was the process like when you said, all right, let's write this book? And for those that are watching, I suppose we could explain a little bit about the book and you know,
Sure.
its content, because it's a fascinating book.
Yeah. Yes. So, well, the process took, as I said, it was almost 6 years really. And I think we did a lot of research. We wanted to make sure we had our facts, but a little bit of that was channeled because Penny works that way. But it is the nuts and bolts of numerology and very simple. The reason you asked the question about why we wrote a book about children, well, I've got 10 grandchildren, 4 kids and 10 grandchildren. So, of course, throughout all these years of doing numerology, I'm always looking at, you know, here's another grandchild born. Oh, right, look, I wonder if it's going to happen on this day or that day. And then you can work out the personality, strengths, talents, abilities, challenges with numerology. And Penny and I didn't put any predictive areas into this book because it's about children, apart from looking at their potential with regard to, say, career or what things they'd be good at. But when I do numerology readings, of course, I look at predictive. I use predictive techniques to get some answers. So the book, we wanted like a light-hearted book, but at the same time, it's a parenting tool it's a tool through numerology for parents. So it's a parenting tool. And I have people come to me and say, right, I have so much of a problem with this particular child. The other child doesn't frustrate me like this one. And then with this particular person, I have a look at her numbers and say, well, look, you're a life path 1. You're focused. You're a go-getter. You want things done now. Your son, he was 5, is a 7, and a 7 is ruled by Neptune, so you've got that Piscean energy. The 7 child needs time alone. He needs that quiet corner to do some writing or some artwork and that peace and quiet. The commonality with the 2, because she was saying, well, what do I do? Because he doesn't like the things that I like to do. And when I want to go out and do this, that, and the other, he's not keen. And I said, well, the commonality is that you both love nature. The one loves to get out and have the adventure. The 7 loves to go out. And the 7's a spiritual number, of course, with Neptune. And so to go camping or to go bush, get out together and then find that common element. So that's I guess how I work when I have clients and I do profiles of children.
That's awesome. And I think many on the feed today can relate to that with children. Like you always have that one that you go, hang on, I'm not sure on how that, where that connection is or how to relate. Definitely. And I mean, even with friends, it's interesting, isn't it? And Hayley's put here, yes, please, I'm a newbie to numerology. So she's like, I want to learn as much as I can.
That's great, Hayley. Yeah. So the book also, I mean, the date of birth is where we get the life path from. So, and I talked about that. It tells us the potential, our talents. We can work out what's, around us for the year. We can also look at the current year. So it's a bit like mundane astrology, where you look at what's going on in the world. You can work out numerology looking at the year. But the secondary means of doing numerology is through the name. And so the book has got a chapter on naming your baby. And I don't believe that the parents choose the name. I believe that the child, before they come through, before they incarnate, that name, the energy and the vibration is there. And so that is the reason that the child chooses the name before they come in, because there's a certain purpose to achieve. And the full name actually gives the destiny, that child's destiny.
Interesting. So you could work that out, and that would be on their birth. So even for us as adults, if we look back at our birth name, like the collective of all of those together will be the start. And what happens when that, obviously throughout life you change or you get married and you swap over. So does that then energetically shift, where I suppose certain aspects, or how does that work?
Yes. Well, I look at the name at birth, so on the birth certificate, and I work with that. But if you marry, or if you use a nickname, for instance, that you've been using for years, that energy changes. And of course, we see a lot of movie stars that change their name because of numerology to get to become famous, to get out there. So the underlying nature is still there from the essence of the name at birth.
So that still has an influence. That's interesting. See, I didn't know that. So that still is quite relative. It's not like you write that off and go, I've just changed my name. And Mary, I love it. Mary's asking the same question as me here, going, does everything change when you get married and acquire another name? So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. The other reason for writing the book is because I was very curious, having 10 grandchildren, because we could see, and everyone I think can see, that these children are different. They're different from any child, I believe, that's gone before. And so if we look at last century, the 1900s, you have the one leading the way. And I talked a little bit about the one. So the one actually is associated with the sun that rules Leo. So that one energy is about focus. It's about creativity. You have Nikola Tesla was a one. Trying to think. Tom Cruise is a life path one. All right. So that challenge, that it can be a me first type thing. Because people with only one in their date of birth can sometimes not see the other side of the coin. So they can, and it depends on the other numbers. So I'm not saying everyone with one is like that. But if the birth date adds up and reduces to a one, that's the life path one. And I've gone off track a bit, but for last century, with the one leading the way, that's how it was. It's the sun is masculine, so it's that male energy, and with the numbers, there's always an overbalance and an underbalance. So the overbalance of the one could lead to male or aggression. It can lead to wars. So we saw a lot of that last century. If we look at the century that we're in, the two leading the way. Now, the two looks like a swan, gentle. The one is upright, forthright. That beautiful, gentle energy. And so the two is about compassion. It's about knowing. It's about intuition. It's about cooperation. So people whose life path reduces to a two, for instance, are usually good at business. They're often very good counselors because they can see the other side of the story, the same as people with 2 1s in their birthday. And so these children come in, and the one is, I talked about it as being me first, but it's also about the ego. All right, so it's separate. The two connects. It's a connecting number. It's really about unity consciousness. And so these children come in, it's heart-centered. They come in to support us to move through with the changes, the massive changes that are happening now, all right, to bring us all together. Does that make sense?
And the swans, it does. And the swans mate for life, don't they? So they've got really connected, aren't they? Like I love we had some swans arrive on our dam one year. I felt so honoured to have them there, and they were just there, I think, for for 2 years, but always together. So
Beautiful.
you always saw the two together.
Yeah, you've got those two together facing each other, and you can see that heart in the space between the head and necks. That's beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
So
They're majestic.
Yeah.
So going into next year, what would be the influences with the numbers, say, if we're looking at, so to go from 2020 to 2021?
So if I start with this year, 2020, forget the zeros, but they are important. So we're in a 4 year. So from the 1st of January to the 31st of December, that 4 year. 4 is a square. It's about the earth. It's about grounding. 4 also relates to health and the economy and finances. 4 brings and so we could see that, something significant was going to happen this year. If you look at the 2s, and I don't know if you or the viewers know about master numbers, but we have a 22. Forget the zeros. So we know that each number, like the 1 is a lower vibration, 1, 2, 3, as you go up, the vibration shifts till you get to 9, which is the number of completion. And then we have master numbers. So there's certain numbers that we use the base number, but also the like an 11-2 is a master number, and we probably don't have time to go into that today. But the 22 of this year is a master number. So the 4 is a building number. So we know there's going to be massive shifts to do with the building. We know massive shifts to do with the economy. And so we know something's going to go down. But it's about us. And I believe the energy of the earth is shifting. So our bodies physically, with that frequency, are changing to actually, we're in catch-up mode. And that's why we've had so many people with strange problems, not sleeping, or, gut problems, all sorts of things. And this has been going on, building for a few years. So this 4 is good because 4 is about laying foundation. And I talked about the square. So when we get into next year, 2021, 2 and 2 and 1 is 5. 5 is Mercury. Mercury is the messenger. It's about communication, but it's also about change and transformation. 5, if you look at it with the numbers 1 to 9, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 is in the middle, 6, 7, 8, 9. And so the 5 is a social number. It is all about freedom, and I'm a life path 5, so my birth date adds up and reduces to 5. And often 5s have issues with regard to finding freedom through some sort of responsibility. There are challenges. And in a 5 year, we'd want to be able to travel. We'd want to be able to get away for a few days. It has a rolling stone energy. And it's about doing a variety of things. So we're going to find there's going to be a bigger push for freedom. And that relates to COVID and all the other things that are happening at the moment. But there's going to be a big push from the public to have that freedom. And of course, as I said, there's always an overbalance and an underbalance. The overbalance of the 5 energy is that we can more easily scatter our energies. And the underbalance is that we can be restricted from doing what we want to do. So it's finding that balance next year. But the 5 is great because it's about expressing who we are. It's a very intuitive number, and it's about us moving out and not being stuck. Whereas the 4 this year it's about being focused. And 4, if anyone's a life path 4, always super busy. Or if you live in a house that adds up to 4, or a phone number that adds up and reduces to a 4, or has got lots of 4s, you'll find, with that phone number, you're always, the phone's always ringing.
Okay. So that's a good number to have if you want a lot of phone calls coming in.
If you want a busy life, the same for a house. If you want a quiet life and you move into a house that adds up to 1, say a 19 or something, 9 and 1 is 10, which is a 1, then, or a 1 house, then you'll find that you're being pushed in, because 1 is the leader, right? You're being pushed in to do those sorts of things. Great for study, for projects, for business. But if you want a quiet life, then the house that would be most suitable for you would be a 7 house, because we have that Neptunian influence, the gentle. Yeah, it's a tucked away type of house. And you can often see this type of house if you add up the numbers as you go down the street. You can see the type of house, because a 6 house, 6 is Venus. So there's often this lovely garden. You have the same as a 2 is very welcoming. So the cooking and gardening. So you'd be welcomed into that person's house, and they might often, not so much these days, but have the scones in the oven for you and this sort of thing, and
Yeah.
that more group energy. Whereas a 7, it's no, I've got my hobby here, I need that time alone. And there's usually, for a 7, for a female, a healing room or a sewing room, or some quiet space. For a male, he's often, as a life path 7, he's out in the shed perhaps, and away, or he's got an aquarium, so there's a focus on a hobby. So
Yeah.
that's how it works. I hope I haven't confused everyone. I'm bouncing around.
No, that's all right. No, they love it. We've got here that a few asking questions. Monica's she's a number 7, and she's like, oh, I'd love to know a bit more about being a number 7 as her birth path number, I believe.
Yes, so I talked a little bit about the 7. The 7 has that Neptunian energy, the Piscean energy. 7 is the number of spirituality. And 7s, apart from usually needing time alone, would be inclined to go more into like the healing type professions. They're often quite good with finances, but of course there's an overbalance and an underbalance. That they're good at numbers or fine tuning things. The 7 would probably prefer to go camping, and I used to say somewhere like Kathmandu, but to go off on a pilgrimage rather than to go to New York, for instance, where there's a crowd of people. And it's a very
so relative. I know for Monica, she does healing, and she's also studying to be a financial counsellor. So
yeah,
that's okay. You're so spot on.
yeah. Oh, it usually fits. Yeah. There's need for the 7, because the 7s pick up the energy of the environment really easily, like a sponge. So the 7s need more time alone to go down to the ocean, because the 7 Pisces water, or out in nature, and to sort of to help ground, because it's water, you need that grounding. And lots of 7s will, are quite very poetic, good at writing, and they lead quietly. It's like they have this wonderful wisdom, but they lead by example rather than being out front, with a collection of people that, the corporate world isn't usually for the 7. They'll do things more quietly.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know Monica, yeah. So I'm like, Monica's got here. I'm laughing because she knows, she's like, you're spot on. Yeah. She can relate.
The other thing with the 7 is that 7 feels things very deeply. So whereas we might have a normal grief response, and 7s usually have to deal with some quite difficult things in their lives. It's not easy as you go through that path, but it's so that they can learn to help others on that spiritual path. And of course, as I said, not everybody does it. Some, like I've done readings for 7s that are pianists. They love their music and this sort of thing. So they're not. That's still spiritual, but not. They're not looking at healing or those sorts of areas. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. We've got Mary's put up here. Her birth path number is a 9.
Okay, Mary. Right, the 9. 9 is at the end of those numbers, so 1 being the beginning and 9 the completion. It picks up the vibration of all the other numbers. And so 9 is the number of ending, really, on the physical. 9s are great teachers. They like to help others, and it's a humanitarian number. As a 9, Mary, it's likely that you would be the person who would rescue the dog that's lost in the street and bring it home to mum. There's that need to help other people. 9 is ruled by Mars, so it can bring a lot of drama into your life. And many 9s that I've done readings for are teachers, and often drama teachers. So the energy has got out through the dramatic side. My daughter owns a circus company. She's a 9, for example. So teaching,
Wow.
yeah. So the 9 is a very powerful number. 9s in the overbalance can scatter their energies, do too much, can be over temperamental because you've got that dramatic side. And I guess what I see most in 9s is that sort of lack of focus, but bringing it all together, it's helping in a big way. It's helping other people through there's this innate wisdom. It's there. It's always there. It's a natural wisdom, and to help other people. And so, yeah, you see a lot of 9s in the helping profession, and it's quite a 9. 9 is at the top of the active plane. So the 7, 8, 9 are on there's an arrow of activity, and so the 9s need to express their energy and get it out, because Mars is short, sharp, it's red, it's volatile. But it is a lovely number because it holds all those other numbers and carries that through. And it doesn't mean to say that this is the end, Mary, that you won't come back here for another lifetime, because it's a 9. It's just those types of things that you have chosen to do in this lifetime, and that's why you're born on that specific day.
Beautiful. And Mary's saying absolutely spot on. She said, absolutely, I want to be of service, and I can be a bit dramatic.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And I didn't mention that the service is really important, not to serve other people in a humble way, but in a balance, nor in a way with ego, but in that balanced way. It's more a service to humanity.
Beautiful. We need more of you, Mary. That's lovely, isn't it? And Jeanette's popped up here. I think I'm a 4, and our house equals 8. That's interesting.
All right. So, Jeanette, do you want to give me your date of birth, if that's okay, and I'll just check you're a 4 when you say you think you're a 4? I'm
a 4 too, so I'll be able to relate to this message.
All right. Okay, so I'll carry on. All right.
Love
so
it.
the 4, very organized, methodical, focused. We talked about the 4 being the square, 4 sides. Yep. It's about laying foundations. And the 4, as a friend, is the best friend to have. Very loyal, responsible, pragmatic. All right. Doesn't show emotion like some of the other numbers, but then it does depend on what other numbers are in the birth date as well. So, we can't categorically, because we're all a mix of things. 4 is ruled by Uranus. So although, as I said, 4s are super busy and they can achieve an awful lot, and it's really a hard work number. The message is to learn how to slow down quite often, all right, because 4s often burn the candle at both ends. But 4 is ruled by Uranus. So Uranus rules Aquarius. So it brings in You have a lot of fours that are quite rebellious, because 4 could be about rebellion. I used to say that 4s were more bohemian, and there were 2 types of 4s, and that's what's in the book.
Yeah.
And you have the what's that TV show? The Big Bang Theory. You can have the nerdy 4s or the way out 4s, but I think they're all mixing now. The numbers are actually, the vibrations changing, the energy's shifting, and so I'm not seeing those things that I used to see. But the 4 being Uranus, you can expect the unexpected in your life. So sometimes you'll have the rug pulled out from under your feet, and it's about learning to go with the flow and to go with the energy of any unexpected change to be able to move forward. Yeah. It is a good number, but it is the number of hard work out of all those numbers. And a lot of 4s are in business. And what was I going to say? 4, the other thing with the 4 is often very creative, but not in a, like, and I don't mean that in a negative sense. The 7 is more like the airy fairy, the poetic number, but this is, they're more imaginative with concrete things. So maybe it's about, because it's the earth, like hammering out some tiles to do mosaics. There's that different type of creativity. It's deeper, and a lot of healing energy with the 4, because the 4s are very good with the hands. And so a lot of 4s are into craft work and those sorts of things, because, or into healing, hands-on healing or massage, because of that energy. But 4s, good resilience, good strength, good energy, and usually quite good health, except for when you overdo it.
Yeah, it's learning to get that balance right. I can relate to that.
That's right. Jeanette, I'm not sure I've got your name pronounced right, but I'll just double check that.
It's Jeanette. I know she had to change her name.
Oh, right. 19, 17.
Be good at adding up in this line of work too, I'd imagine, Jeannie.
Yeah, it keeps my brain in trim, I tell you. 10, 17, 3, 6. So yes, Jeanette, you're a 31-4. So the 31, if you add up those numbers across, they add up to 31. All right. Should I go through it? 1 and 4 is 5. 3 is 7. 1 is 8. 9 is 17. 6 is 20. Oh, I've done it wrong, haven't I? 1 and 4 is 5. 3 and 7. 3 is 7. 1 is 8. 9 is 17. 18, 19, 21, 22, 23. So the 6 is 23. Oh, and 7 is 30. Oh dear. No, usually I do it straight away. You can actually get rid of that 9 and it will reduce to the same number, which is interesting. So if I went 7, 14, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and add the 9, it's a 31-4. So I'm sorry, my addition this morning isn't very good, but if you want to write that down and add it up, it'll come to 31, and then 3 and 1 is 4. And so the 3 leading that way, the 31, brings in the extra creativity, and the 1, the extra strength and that dynamic energy of the 1. Yeah.
Beautiful. And Jeanette's put in feedback here. Love creating, and yes, I use my hands daily. Plus, she's a Reiki master as well. So absolutely.
Well, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
It does.
And if you look at the year she's in, shall I go on to Anne?
Yeah, or you can continue on. Yeah, continue on with Jeanette if you want to.
So if I look at Jeanette's date of birth, and I'm looking at the current year for her, 1 and 4 is 5. 3 is 8, and then the current year is 2020, 10, 12. So she's in a 3-year. So what I've done is I've added 1 and 4. 1 and 4 is 5 of the 14th to March, which is 8. And then I've added 2020. So 8 and 2 is 10, and 2 is 12. 1 and 2 and 3. So Jeanette is in a 3-year. So she's just come out of a destiny change. So from her birthday, all right, so if we look at a personal year, it goes from birthday to birthday. So from her birthday in March, 14th of March, she's come into a 3-year. 3 is Jupiter. So it's expanding her energies, looking at something creative. 3s love to talk. There's that social backwards and forwards, good for business because it's about expansion. And so that energy, that 3 energy will carry through until her birthday next year. So that's, and that's Sagittarius. Yeah, going out, it's social. And it's quite light-hearted. It's not that heavy-duty energy. Yeah, beautiful. But beware of gossip because that's the negative, one of the negatives of the 3. And if I look at Anne, hello, Anne. Again, the 14th. I was born on the 14th. So if you add up that 14, there's that energy of the 1 just to start with that's coming through in the day of birth. So that 5 energy, the Mercury energy, and I talked about that in the year. So let me see if I can do it properly this time. 1 and 4 is 5. January is 6. The 1 of the 1900s is 7. 7 and 9 is 16. Then another 7, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, and 1 is 24. I make that a 24, 6. So let me go. 1 and 4 is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 24. 8, 9, 10, 14, 15. All right. So Anne, you're a 24, 6. So 6, as I said, is ruled by Venus. It rules dual signs. It rules Libra, which is about beauty, aesthetics. You'd have a good sense of design. And also it rules Taurus. So Taurus is the earthy side, possibly a love of gardening, cooking. The thing with the 6 is it's about responsibility to family. So the 6s have this wonderful love of family. 6 being Venus, it's about love, relationships. Very important to have a relationship. And it's a lovely, gentle number. 6s usually have great memories. And my memory's terrible. I'd love to.
I need some 6 as well.
You have. But it's very gentle, it's very caring, it's very nurturing. The thing is with the 6 is that you can actually overcare. So family is super important, and you have to watch that you don't overdo things, and that because it's a number of worry, and it's often worry about family. It relates to the solar plexus. And so to look after yourself. 6, creative, often art, anything to do with beauty. You have a lot of, say, hairdressers or beauticians that are 6s, anything to do with art and design. Also, business, very good at business. And 6 can be about helping the community. So it's a big community number. And if those numbers added up to 33, that is 33, 6. 33, like 11, 22, 33, and 44 are master numbers. So the 33 brings a responsibility in a big way to help others. And it brings a lot of healing energy.
And I totally think that relates to Anne, because her family is very important to her. I know that. Haley's also asked here, hi, Haley, about she's an 11, so she's asking would...
Okay. Let me double check this. I do believe what you're saying, but I can sort of feel into the energy more if I actually work it out myself as well. Yes, definitely, Hayley. I'll just have a mouthful of water. Excuse me. So, firstly, that 2 energy still applies. That's the base number. And we talked about the 2. 2, I don't think I mentioned 2 is ruled by the moon. So that the moon has got 8 major phases. So anyone who's a life path 2 or has lots of 2s in their birth date are strong. And all these kids born in the 2000s, all right, they're,
Yep.
the 0 next to that 2 for these children potentiates that number 2. So it exponentially increases the power of that 2. And that's why this energy at the moment is so powerful with these kids that have come in. But so the base number 2, compassion, kindness, usually an inability to say no. All right. And 2s can be, they have all those, super, super intuitive. Often hoarders don't like to get rid of things, and getting rid of things can actually bring in the new energy, as we know. And not all 2s, but that is one of the things with the 2. The 11 master number. So the 2 applies. The 11 is stronger. You've got 2 1s. All right, the 2 1s that I talked about, strong, firm. So it brings more determination. It tells me, Hayley, that you're on a spiritual path. Life hasn't been easy for you. You've had a lot of learning to help you get to the point of where you are now. And it's usually by the time you're in your early 30s, then you get that understanding of what's going on. And so you've reached that point. So you're here to help others through, as I said, 2s are usually good counselors. The 11 2s are much, the high vibration. So there's a lot more work to do to help others. And it's not usually easy. It's you find that people come to you for advice. You're there for them. But it's through these learning experiences that you're here to help others. And that's the same with all the master numbers. As the master numbers increase and that vibration increases.
It's interesting. The master numbers, just checking my internet didn't drop out then. Interesting. Yeah, Hayley, be interesting to see, give us feedback on that if that relates, because it's fascinating. And you don't, master numbers not overly common. Would I be correct in that?
No, they're not common. And as you go up through those numbers, they're less common. And for instance, I did workshops over 3 days at the Conscious Living Expo in Perth about 3 years ago. And in total, I had over 100 people that came. So each day there was, I'm talking 33, at least, somewhere around 33 people. And most of them didn't know anything about numerology, which was lovely. And they were curious about the master numbers. So when I started talking about them, I think it was on the 3rd day, I'd asked if anyone was a 33, and I had 2 people put their hands up. There was a woman in her 40s and a woman who was in her 80s. And so I said, look, the 33 is a healing number. It brings an awful lot of responsibility to you. And the 6s, right, have responsibility, but 33 has a lot more responsibility to help other people. It's a healing number. It's community orientated. It can go even wider than that. There's a lot that, as a 33, that person, or as an 11 too, you've chosen to do in this lifetime. You've chosen to do this. So for the 33, I said, look, I haven't done enough readings that ask that many questions of 30. Well, I've done heaps of thousands of readings, but of 33s to know how this pans out. And I said, if you're 33, there are usually lots and lots of learning along the way, lots of responsibility, a lot of burdens. You feel that you're burdened, you take on too much, and there are the grief experiences to move you forward. So you understand about humanity in a big way. And I looked at the woman in her 80s, and she said, yes, you're so right, because I needed validation that what I've read and the people that I've seen that are 33s, that this is right. But in saying this, the energy is changing. There's a massive shift happening as we speak. So for these 33s, and especially 44s, and there are only a clump of 44s born from the 1960s, and we're not seeing them. And you get it in the name, but not in the date of birth from this current century. And that's even tougher. But the energy is changing. I don't believe the young people of today are going to have these issues or have to do the hard yards like people in the past have. There's a big shift, and I'm still waiting for some downloads of energy of what's actually happening. But that's the difference.
How interesting. Oh, so does that mean there's a second book coming?
There is. I'm nearly finished. I put it on hold because I thought, well, I'll put out an online course. So I've got a basic numerology course, which does incorporate master numbers. It talks about the relationship between planets and numbers. So I thought, well, I'll put that out, and it's got 14 videos, so people might get sick of seeing me on videos, but PDFs for download and PowerPoints. And I thought I'd put that out because I need to be a bit more visible. And this book is, I've done it. Penny's retired. She's retired a few years ago. But so the book, written just by me, and it goes deeper into spiritual things. So it's to help people understand what's happening at the current time. I talk about karmic numbers, and I believe with what's happening, karma is going to be no more in the future. All right. So, but I talk about the karmic numbers. There are certain numbers with particular karmic qualities for people to work through. And I've got a little section on house numbers because they're really important, and it's good fun, and everybody loves to know house numbers. And so it's a lot deeper than the book, this book, Numerology and Your Child, which is simple. And even though this book is for parents, I have people buy it because the numbers, I mean, we've all got the same numbers. And I remember having a facial. I went just up the road for a facial and got talking to the young lass about my books, and she bought 2. And I didn't go back to see her until I got another voucher from family members. And she said, "Oh, Jeannie, I've been waiting, hoping you'd come in," because she said, "I took the books. We had a girls' night in. We were going to watch Legally Blonde." And she said, and I pulled out the book and we sat there. We watched 5 minutes of the movie. We sat there. We went through. She said, "Oh, it was so accurate." And it was just so much fun. We worked out all our own numbers and we had an absolute ball. And she said, "I'm so glad you've come back because I really needed to tell you." So anyone can pick the book up and work through it.
That's what I found. Yeah, I found it. Like, I learnt heaps from the book, and my children are older now, but it's packed full of information. So I would highly recommend to anyone to read it. Yeah. And I think your course would be amazing to jump on for those. There's a lot on today that are interested in numerology, and so this course is a great intro. Jeannie, is that right, that you're offering from your website?
It gives you all the tools so you can work out your own numbers, and you can work out families and friends. And it's always great dinner table talk to obviously start saying, "Oh, hello," and finding out about someone and just thinking, "Oh, yes, so that person, I can understand where they're coming from. They're that particular number." And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we'll share, because a few of them are now really keen to jump on board and get your book. So is your book available on your website? Which I know there's a link. There's a link on the information here, but we can add another link here into the description too, so that everyone can check it out.
Obviously, it's thanks to Animal Dreaming Publishing that the book was published. So anyone can purchase it through Animal Dreaming. The ebook's up on Amazon. My website is my name, jeanneprosser.com. So JEANNE Prosser, PROSSER.com. And you can order the book or book a reading by Zoom call or whatever. The course hasn't quite got on the website because I've just had it revamped. But you get that through Thinkific. So if you have trouble finding it by Googling my name, then just let me know and I can point you to it. And you can put some information on it without actually having to buy it. So it's just a matter of seeing if it's sort of your cup of tea. Yeah,
it's awesome. We've had some great feedback that everyone's like excited. Yeah. Very interesting.
Yes, and Monica's up there on the screen. So if anyone wants to just send me a message, I can perhaps answer a couple more questions. So
beautiful. Now, well, thank you so much for coming on the show. And we've had a little bit of a miss with our stream directly, I think, to Animal Dreaming, but we will share it as soon as this is finished onto that page as well. But we have got it on YouTube, the Animal Dreaming YouTube channel. You can jump on, and that's where all of our interviews with the authors are. It's been great fun, Jeannie. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and answering all our impromptu questions. And yeah, I'm excited, and I'm sure there's many on here that will love to support you with your book. And it's a really big thing at the moment. I think we really, with all that we've been through this year, it's great to support those in business and, especially here in Australia. And I think coming up to Christmas, your book would be a great present for many people because it's it's informative. And I have to say, it's such an easy read. Like, it's just great to pick up and, flick through, and, you can go over different parts. It's one of those that you wouldn't pass on necessarily because you could always use it as a reference.
Yeah. Thanks, Tonia. Thanks so much for having me on the show. It's been great fun. And yes, numerology is just so important because it gives us hope. We can look at the numbers and think, well, this today isn't really the story about what's going to happen tomorrow. And it's so important, especially in the current times, to be able to move forward and look at all the beautiful things that we've got in front of us.
Yeah, beautiful. No, it's lovely. And it's a lovely, thing to think about. And it's nice to focus on something positive. And you've certainly brought that positivity today, Jeannie. So we've loved connecting with you. And I can't wait to, no doubt, I'll be interviewing you for your next book. So
that would be wonderful. Yes, in the very distant future. Lovely. Thanks, Tonia, and thanks very much, Animal Dreaming, for having me on.
No,
thanks.
My pleasure. We've loved having you on. You've shared so much information, and we're very thankful. So for everyone on there, if you want to jump on, I've shared Jeannie's website, so you can jump on. She offers readings as well as her book is on there, and please connect. We would love to hear about that. So thank you all. Thanks for listening in and taking time out of your day to join us today. So thank you.
Thanks.
Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.